My name's Rod Findlay. I'm a game fisherman from Sydney and I'm here for Short Marine to deliver some tips on marlin fishing. The first tip is making sure you target the right thing at the right time of year. For marlin fishing off Sydney, you normally start in early December and depending on the currents you can run through to late May. A great thing to do out of a place like Sydney in particular is build a network of fishing friends that are regularly going, and one of the best places to do that is in a game fishing club where you can meet and generate a network of people that are regularly fishing that share intel in regards to the fishing action at the time. My next tip would be to pick an area in the morning and try and stick to that area. There's not a great amount of success ever had where you cover a large part of the ocean in one day. You can only really fish effectively a 10-mile piece of water. So once you've found a water with a bit of life in it, you should hang there and wait for the bite to happen. And the most important part is you only get out of it what you put into it. So wet hooks, more time in the water, the more you catch. So a few important things to do before you head out is choose your lures the night before, get them all ready, make sure they're rigged correctly, hooks are sharp, and have a few different sizes ready to cover the different bait fish you might encounter on the day. For marlin fishing, we tend to rig our gear a bit lighter, on the lighter side of the equation than for tuna, due to the fact that they're hard to hook. Marlin are very hard fish in the mouth, and so lighter, thinner, sharper hooks will always give you a better hookup ratio. It's important to have a mixture of lures of the same sort of variety, but keep the surface lures on the smaller scale, from sort of 10 inches being the biggest and the smallest being about 6 inches. Make sure all your line's in good condition, you know, your leaders, check all your leaders, check all your knots, make sure they're not abraded or corroded, so the next day you are ready to go. You're confident in what you're putting in the water. So another tip you would do is scale the drag to about 30% of the line class. So if you're on 15 kilo line, you would set your strike drag at about 5 kilos to make sure that when you do get a bite, you don't break the line instantly. The other important tip is to go through the boat, have a bit of a safety checklist, make sure you cover all your safety gear as well as check the bilges, make sure your bilge alarms and bilge pumps are running, that you've got enough fuel on board, and with that fuel you want to make sure you've got enough reserve to carry out the day just in case there's a scenario pop up where you might have to go to someone's rescue or you have foul weather that might make you use more fuel than you anticipated. So the next tip is studying the sea surface temperature charts or the SST charts and looking for the right pieces of water. On the SST, looking for current that's pushing onto the coast is important. You get all the fish that are in the deeper volume of water and they're compressed into the shallower water, so you end up with an area of concentration of life. When you're looking at your day, you want to try and focus your timing around the tide changes and where you want to be and when. So if you've got an area that you want to capture, you want to try and get there an hour before the tide change on any given day and give it the full scope of the hour before, during and after the tide change. The more time you spend on the water, the more you catch, so the earlier you leave and the later you return, the better your results. Taking note of what birds are around you and how they change over the course of the day is a big thing. When you've got lots of mutton birds, for instance, the bait tends to be smaller because they can only pick up small fish, where if you're seeing gannets and albatross that can eat larger prey, you know the bait size is increasing, so that can affect the way you adjust your lures over the course of the day. If you're talking about some trolling tips, the best thing I would suggest is learning your sounder and understanding how it works and getting in tune with it in regards to how it's setting. Make sure that you're confident that anything you run over, you get a C on it. Once you're marlin fishing off Sydney, you're looking for bait predominantly. And when you find the bait, you find the marlin. So finding bait schools on your depth sounder and then concentrating on those areas, giving those areas time to produce a bite is one of the most important things. There's no point finding bait fish and then wandering off and looking somewhere else. As you can see on this sounder shot, you can see a school of slimy mackerels that's 40 metres deep, and to its left you can see the striped marlin that's eating them. It's important to focus on every aspect of your day, be it your electronics, what's around you and what spread you're trolling, and you should probably spend more time looking at your gear and the ocean itself than your electronics, due to the electronics being historical. In a minute I'd spend 40 seconds looking at my gear because I'm fishing in a way that I want to see the fish before it eats. And then I spend 5 seconds looking at my electronics because it's scrolling, it's historical, and the other 10 seconds I'd be looking around to see if there's birds or boats or, so it's sort of breaking your focus up. Well, the more effort you put in, the more you get out, right? So if everyone's looking at the bottom of a beer bottle or lying down asleep, you don't get to see or appreciate things. A few tips when you do hook up: maintaining good communication between yourself and the crew so they understand what you're doing and when you are going to slow down and when to pull the gear in. And everyone knows their role well before you hook up. So it's important to keep the angler off to one side of the boat and make sure that he's got good line of communication with the captain, and keep the line out to the side so you don't have any obstacle get in the way. When you're fighting a marlin, try and shorten the leash and get the fish as close as possible, as quickly as possible. So once your gear's cleared and your crew's settled down, you would drive straight up the line and get the fish within 50 metres as quick as possible, just to shorten the fight time dramatically. The way we like to fish these days is to reduce the stress and handling of the fish. We use a lighter gauge hook, so once we've tagged our fish or we've got enough photos, we grab the leader and the hook will straighten and release the fish without us having to interact with it. When you do get back to the marina, it's important to have everyone organised, so you'll have your guys that pack your fishing gear away and make sure it's correct and ready to go for your next day, which is hopefully tomorrow. And the other part is when you wash the boat, washing it from top to bottom, making sure you've got enough gear on board to do that, making sure you've got enough chamois so at the end of the day everyone can help dry the boat off, get all the salt off so it's looking perfect for the next fishing day. These are some of my tips that bring me more success and make it more enjoyable for me to be on the water, and I hope it does the same for you.